Today on Rainbow Express. His name has been synonymous with football for decades. He now calls the Emerald City his home. Meet Tom Flores, former head coach of the Los Angeles Raiders and new general manager of the Seattle Seahawks.
Welcome to Rainbow Express. I'm David Arteaga, sitting in for Deloria Jones. The name Tom Flores may by now be familiar to you. You've heard it on the news or seen it in the sports section. But who is this newcomer from the Los Angeles Raiders who calls the Northwest his home? We found out. Tom Flores is a winner, both on and off the field. Son of a Mexican immigrant, he was born in California's San Joaquin Valley. He's proud of his Mexican-American heritage and has been active in the Hispanic community of Los Angeles. He was an outstanding football player in college and went on to have a successful career as a quarterback in the National Football League. However, Seahawk fans remember him mostly as the cool-headed coach of the LA Raiders. As a member of the Raider organization, he earned Super Bowl rings both as a player and as a coach. In February of 1989, he came to the Emerald City as the new president and general manager of the Seattle Seahawks. Recently, I had the opportunity to sit and talk with him at the Seahawk headquarters in Kirkland. What does a general manager do?
Well, just about everything, really, other than coach the team on the field. It depends. I think every team differs. In this situation, I'm involved in all the different contracts, the radio contract, television contract, salary increases for the employees, non-football employees, negotiating contracts with the football players, you name it, travel, everything. I have to oversee everything. Now, I'm not directly hands-on everything. Well, I mean, our tickets are handled very well by our ticket manager and his crew. The travel arrangements are handled very well, but I have to oversee it and make sure and okay a lot of these things. So in this case, it's just about everything. And plus, I'm going to get actively involved in the draft, trades, personnel. I'm going to try to be aware of everything other than the football part, which Chuck Knox does very well.
So then, what have been some of the most significant changes that you've had to make in moving from head coach to general manager?
The difference is that I've never done a lot of the things that I'm doing now. In fact, most of them. I've always been aware of what was going on. I've always been aware of the negotiations and how they were proceeding and where we were with certain players. But actually, the actual talking to the agents and negotiating, I've never done that before. I've never had to do a TV contract or a radio contract before. So these things are all new, and I've had to have a cram course, but fortunately, we have a very good front office staff here. Our PR department is excellent, our finance department is excellent. So the expertise that they have has been very beneficial to me. So it's been all new, but it's very challenging, and it's in a sport that I've been in for 28 years.
So in terms of style, what are some of the adjustments you've had to make in moving from the Raider camp to the Seahawk camp?
I've had to change my wardrobe, first of all. I've had to get rid of a lot of my black, and I can still keep some of the silver because one of our colors is silver. But I've had to change that. But other than that, I haven't changed my style. I haven't changed the way I carry myself, and some of my football decisions aren't going to change because those things remain with you. That's all. That's my background. That's my knowledge. That's my acumen, if you want to use that word. But that's what I have to offer.
Okay, you're a winner, and that's very important. But besides that, what do you bring to the Seahawks from the Raider organization?
Oh, I don't know. I don't bring anything from the Raiders. I bring Tom Flores, and my expertise, my background is 23 years with that organization. 9 years as a head coach, and an assistant, 7 years as an assistant before that. And so I think I bring my expertise, which some of it was the basis of it was developed with that organization. But I don't bring anything of the Raiders because if I did that, they'd run me out of town. You know, there's always we had some fun with some of the call-ins that we might be changing our logo. We're not changing our logo. We're not changing our colors. We're not moving. This is the Seahawks. I came to town. I joined this organization. I made a commitment to win. And the team that I want to beat the most is that team.
Now think back when you were preparing the Raiders for the Seahawks. What did you tell them in preparation for the game?
I never told them much, anything more than what I normally tell the team. I mean, we always point out their strong points. We always point out what we want to do. And when we were coming up to Seattle, there was always a concern because we didn't play real well up here, that the crowd was really into the game up here. So we always had a few problems up here. And in my 9 years, I think we only won about 3 of those years up here. So my record wasn't very good. Our record wasn't very good. So we had to prepare our guys, and the one thing that we prepared them for was playing in Seattle. And we couldn't make a big deal. You don't make a big deal out of certain places. There's certain places you go that are tough to play in. There are certain places, I mean, you go to Denver, it's tough to play in Denver. I'm sure the Seahawks felt when they came to the Raiders, it was tough to play there as opposed to playing at home. Everybody's a little more comfortable at home. So you can't really go overboard in stressing certain things. Otherwise, your players will worry about that instead of worrying about playing football.
Now, of course, you have the inside info on the Raiders, obviously. Will the Raiders change their game plan against the Seahawks because of that?
No, because the Raiders, with the new coach, with Mike Shanahan, their personality has changed some. Their personality always usually reflects the head coach. With the Raiders, when I was there, when John Madden was there before me, in all the years, that personality has always been the Raider philosophy, which was Davis started it back in '63 when he came there as a head coach. And it continued because all the people that coached it had been brought up in that system, and they believed in it. I played in the system, and I coached it, and then I became the head coach. So that philosophy stayed, and our game plans reflected that, and my personality was in that same philosophy. Well, Mike Shanahan, in coming to town, he has brought his philosophy. It's a little change in what the Raiders have done in the past. So in that respect, I don't think it's going to, I don't know what he likes to do. I don't know what his tendencies are. I don't know all those things, so I don't know that that's going to matter.
The question of you being accepted as a Seahawk, after having been the head coach of the arch-rival Raiders, has been brought up by the media. How do you respond to that?
Doesn't bother me. In fact, I at least I have some respect. We had some great games and some real battles, and Chuck and I have always been friendly foes through the years. I respected him, and I imagine he respected me, and we had some good games. And coming from, I guess if I had come from another organization, it wouldn't be as dramatic or as noticeable as coming from that group. They always call them that group, those guys, and, and all that stuff. And I can't do anything about it. I mean, I was out of football for a year. I enjoyed my leave of absence. I did some color TV work, and I played some golf and did some speaking. When I had this opportunity, I really hadn't thought about it. And once I thought about it more and more, I got excited about it. The fires were lit again. And the bottom line is that in this profession, you have to win, and you're geared and you're trained and you develop that desire to win, and that is the goal, and that's my challenge, to win. And the team that I will want to beat the most will be the Raiders.
When we come back, more on winning with Tom Flores.
I want to talk about your background, your growing up, your beginnings in football. Who were your heroes when you were growing up in the sport?
I didn't have any heroes, really. Growing up in the San Joaquin Valley, football wasn't a big thing. And in those days, television, we didn't have a television until I was a senior in high school. And the National Football League was not real big on TV. My father, born in Mexico, came over when he was 12 years old. He really didn't know anything about football until my brother and I started playing in high school. He knew baseball, and he knew boxing. That was about it.
When did you decide that you wanted to play football and make it a career?
I probably didn't decide that or even have that goal in mind until I was about a junior in college. After my junior year in college, when I was playing in high school, I realized that it was an opportunity to make me go on into a four-year school. I played in junior college, and then I went to College of Pacific in Stockton, California, and I played there. And after my junior year, I'd had a good year, and some of the pros that were playing in the National Football League came back to school, and they were around the campus, and they were around the community, so we got to be friends and talk, and all of a sudden, you share some of the stories with them, and it looks like an exciting world and a fun world. And so that's when I started following a little bit more. And then we would go to some 49er games, we'd drive and see those, and we followed the teams on television. And television was a little bit more into pro football at the time, so it became something that I said, wow, this could be fun, something fun to do.
How do you feel about being a role model for youth in general and for Hispanic, Latino kids specifically?
Well, it's very flattering. It's nice to be looked up upon as a role model, as a leader, as someone that maybe has accomplished a little bit. And I think that every ethnic group needs role models. Every ethnic group needs their heroes. And I am very unique in that there aren't too many of us in this profession. Anthony Munoz is one, Max Montoya, Jim Plunkett, and then there's several kickers, but that's it. You don't really go on too far as household names in professional football that are Hispanic.
Why is that, and why do most of, or so many of them anyway, make it as kickers in the game?
I think one of the reasons has to do with, football players have to be big, and our ethnic group is not, that big. I mean, we are good size for baseball, and you don't see too many in basketball because there are not too many 6'8", 6'9", Hispanics. Anthony Munoz is a rare guy. I'm over 6 foot, so I'm rare. I think we are gradually getting bigger and bigger, but you have to be honest in that, excuse me, there are a lot of them playing in the lower levels, high school, and some in college, junior colleges. But to get to the pro level, you have to be a lot bigger in stature. And maybe that's one of the reasons. And I would imagine that could be one of the reasons. I think, right now, the one thing that concerns me is the dropout rate in Hispanics, especially in the Los Angeles schools, is very, very high. And that could be another reason, is that unless you continue on in professional football, you have to, the minor leagues for professional football are the colleges. That's what you have to go to college, and because there's only a handful of guys in reality play professional football. The rest of them have to go out and work. And I think that the dropout rate could be another factor, that those that are capable and big enough, and there's certainly a lot of them that are big enough and physically capable, but if you drop out when you're 16, it's over. It's over.
Not a particularly pleasant subject, but racism. Did you experience that as an athlete in your childhood?
Never as an athlete, but a little bit growing up in school, and most of it came from dating, I guess. And some of it was kind of amusing, and I never really although at one point I got a little bitter, I think when I was a senior in high school. I was only 16 years old at the time, but a teacher grabbed a hold of me, and she, I love her for it, because she said, hey, don't be angry, because I was a little angry. And it all stemmed from dating. I wanted to date a gal, and her mother wouldn't let her go out with me. So I got a little upset. And she didn't even know who I was. She had never met me, but she saw the name, so she says no. And I had experienced that a little bit before, but that was the only thing. But I have, this teacher grabbed me and she straightened me out a little bit, and then I realized, well, I can't overreact to a situation, one person. I mean, there's always going to be a person. I mean, we can live for 1,000 years. There'll always be somebody that doesn't like that person because of his skin, because of his name, because of whatever. I mean, that's going to happen forever. You can't change that, but you can change the rest of it. I think the rest of it has changed. But in those days, we were called Mexicans. Now we're Hispanic, so I'm not sure what the difference is. But there are some people that prejudged, and I got over that hurdle. And I had friends that were every ethnic group. I had Mexican friends, I had Caucasian friends, or whatever you want to call them. I had Japanese friends and some dear black friends, and Lithuanian friend, one of my best friends, Lithuania. I didn't even know where Lithuania was in those days. So I mean, I said, he was just my friend. I mean, what the heck? So I don't, but I did experience some, and it wasn't very, I was young at the time, and I guess you could have, or I could have, carried a chip on my shoulder because of it, but I never did, because I had too many friends that were non-Hispanic that made the difference, and they're still to this day my dear friends.
Coming up, secrets of success.
One of my strengths is my calm during the storm, because if I went wacko, then it was over.
What about Tom Flores makes him successful? What do you attribute your success to?
Well, I don't know. I've been asked that before, and I really don't know. I think, I had a pretty good background. I mean, I didn't have a great educational background, but I had a good family background. My mom and dad were very supportive. They're still alive, still in that little same house that they spent the last 40-some years in. And the one thing that they did is I learned from them is they worked hard. My dad came over when he was 12. They worked in the fields. I think he went to school one year, and then he dropped out. My mom made it through the 8th grade. They always wanted whatever was good for my brother and I, and they always did whatever they could for us. And sometimes it wasn't very much, but it was the best they could do. And they established a good work pattern and good values, and I've always had those values, and I think those are very important. When you have values, sensitivity towards people, you become very close to a lot of people, and you're not afraid to work. And I think that's one of the things that has helped me. I've never been afraid to work. I mean, I was going to college, and I would sometimes have maybe 2-3 jobs just to make some money. But I never backed off. I never wanted the easy way, because there is no easy way sometimes. And it took me 3 times before I made it in the pros due to injury. I had a lung ailment that knocked me out of the pros for a year, and I fought back. So I've always enjoyed being maybe the underdog. And I think when you are a minority, sometimes you're labeled as an underdog to start with. But there was always challenges. Those were challenges to me. I think one of the things, the qualities that I have that has always been a plus is that I am a very steadying force inside the hurricane. And the group I was with before was a hurricane. And I was the one that had to steady them and hold them together, and I always felt that was one of my strengths is my calm during the storm, because if I went wacko, then it was over. I mean, the whole team would, but somebody had to be sane inside this maniacal group of people that sometimes it gets that way on the football field. And then this is a contact sport. This is an emotional sport played by adults. These guys are warriors, and it's all geared on one thing, and that's winning on Sunday. So somebody has to be the calming force, and I always felt that was one of my strengths.
A lot of problems in the NFL with drugs recently. What do you think of that issue and the drug testing policy in the NFL now?
Well, the drug testing policy, I don't want to comment too much on it. I think unfortunately it's necessary. It has to be done. Now, maybe it's not flawless. Nothing is flawless. But it is a policy, and it has shown that it has deterred the use of drugs in the National Football League. I think that the penalties should be strong. I don't believe in anything recreational of that nature, because that's a bunch of bull. I mean, recreational is what? I mean, you either do or you don't. I mean that just doesn't make sense to me. So I really believe that the penalties should be strong. I don't believe in this recreational bull. I think that the policies set forth by the commissioner a few years ago are good. I personally don't think they're strong enough, but they are good. Now they have addressed steroids. I just think that this thing, we have to do as good a job as we can to see if we can eliminate most of it. We're not going to eliminate it all because it's almost impossible. We inherit the problem. We don't start it. I mean, these kids, they come to us. They've already tried. They've already experimented. Now, maybe in professional sports, because you have money all of a sudden, it enhances a problem. But I think that this country has a tremendous responsibility, and we have to start before they get to the pros, before they get to high school, even before they get to junior high, because there's some vermin out there that's trying to destroy our country with all this garbage that's coming in. I don't know how we allow it. I don't know how we allow a country to ship all that stuff into this big country, some little country. They're killing us. Our government has to do a better job. Our states have to do a better job. I'm really adamant about that. We're not doing a good enough job. And it's not the National Football League. We're doing as best we can to clean up our house. But we've got 200 and some million people. And we've got all these young kids, and they're very vulnerable when they're very young. And these people out there on the street corners, they don't care. They don't care at all.
What would you like to see happen for Tom Flores as a Seahawk?
The ultimate, obviously, is obvious: win a Super Bowl. Then I would have another ring and another area. Then the only thing left would be as owner, and then I'd have to talk to Ken Behring about that. But if we can get to that Super Bowl, and I'd love to be able to do that for Chuck Knox too, with Chuck Knox, because he has had such a great career. And that's the only thing that he hasn't done. That's the only thing left. Like I said, there are a lot of people that have been outstanding in this profession that have never been there or had the taste of it. And it's a great feeling. That's even hard to describe. It's the epitome of what we're all after. And so I would like to be able to do that. But more than that, I want to maintain this organization the way it's been in the past, as a class organization, well-run, and very, very competitive. That's my primary goal. Now, the rest, I just feel will fall into place, because a Super Bowl is tough to get to. And there's only one team a year that gets there. And you can do all the right things, but if one thing doesn't fall in place, it can be disastrous. One kick, one drop pass can mean the difference between going on to the next game and then who knows?
From having seen Tom Flores on the Raiders sidelines, I thought he might be a serious, low-key kind of fellow. Well, he's definitely serious about football, but to my surprise, he has a great sense of humor. Besides humor, Tom Flores brings to Seattle a wealth of experience and a winning tradition as a player and a coach. And now, as a general manager, Tom Flores hopes to bring a Super Bowl championship to the Emerald City. Thanks for being with us today, and see you next week for another edition of Rainbow Express.